it's Nikki, and today I'm here with my TBR for Nonfiction November. I'll link the announcement videos for that below if you want to go check out the kind of videos explaining the prompts in more detail. Reading challenge is a little unique. It does have challenges for it, but really the creators, all they want you to do is read at least one nonfiction book in the month of November, and you are considered participating in Nonfiction November. And if you normally read a lot of nonfiction, then they encourage you to read at least one more book than you would normally read in the nonfiction genre. I personally really like nonfiction, so I was really excited to find out about this readathon. I know it's been going on for a couple years. Something I really like about this challenge is that it does encourage people to check out nonfiction, which is a genre that you don't typically see a lot, or at least I haven't really come across it a lot in booktube blogs, Goodreads, all that stuff. And it encourages you to check out types of nonfiction that you might not have before. Nonfiction is a really varied genre. There are a lot of almost like subgenres within nonfiction, and I know that there's a lot of people who kind of thought that they just didn't like nonfiction when really they hadn't yet just like found the nonfiction book or kind of subset that they typically enjoyed, and now they consider themselves an avid nonfiction reader. I myself, like I said, super enjoy nonfiction. I did pick one book for each of the 4 prompts. I really like how they kind of left the prompts open-ended. There are 4 sets of 2 words, and you can pick either word and kind of adapt your books to that prompt what you will. They do say that they encourage being creative with how you apply it. So that, I think that's really neat, and I've really liked kind of watching other people's TBRs and seeing how they apply the books that they're reading to the word pairs. So the first prompt that I'm going to talk about is pastime or past time. And I went with pastime. I'm reading a book that takes place or is about somebody from the past, and that is this book about Catherine of Aragon, the Spanish Queen of Henry VIII. So I was actually in between this one and a book about Queen Victoria, and I ran a poll a couple places on like Twitter and my Facebook and Goodreads, and on Twitter and Goodreads people were super 50-50, like it was almost dead on 50-50 the whole time, but my Facebook friends came through with me, and this one ended up winning out, so it's what I'm going to go with. It fits the past time because it is about someone in the past, so the events and stuff of her life take place in the past. I'm really excited to read this. Henry VIII is one of those people. He's a really shitty person, and there's just a lot of crazy things that happened during his reign, and Catherine of Aragon is also like a really interesting figure, and so I'm excited to read this book about her and her life that really like focuses on things from her perspective. So the next set of words that I have picked a book from is the self or shelf. And I decided to go with self, and what I did for that is I picked an autobiography. So it isn't something about myself, but it is someone writing about themselves and their experience and stuff from their own life. So that's kind of how I chose to interpret the self prompt. This is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory. It's an autobiography, and I'll just read like a little bit of the blurb on the back to kind of give you an idea about some of the stuff that's covered in this book. In this best-selling memoir, brimming with gallows humor and vivid characters, she marvels at the gruesome history of undertaking and relates her unique coming-of-age story with bold curiosity and mordant wit. By turns hilarious, dark, and uplifting, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes reveals how the fear of dying warps our society and will make you reconsider how our culture treats the dead. So she is actually a licensed mortician. She has a YouTube channel where she does a bunch of videos about death and carrying of dead bodies and stuff like that, and I'm sure I'll get more information as I read the book. So that one I'm really excited for, and I may actually end up buddy reading this with someone. Someone found out that I was interested in reading it in November and said that they were too, so I might read this more towards the end of the month so that I can buddy read it with someone. The next set of words that I'm going to talk about is wander or wander, and I ended up going with wander. This one is a book about traveling in space. So this is a book by Mary Roach, who I have really wanted to check out for a while. I've heard really good things about her and her books, and I've just never gotten a chance to pick up a book by her, but at the big book sale that I did my book haul on, I ended up grabbing this for $2, so as soon as I saw it on the table, I was like, I don't care how much it is, like, I'm getting it. So I was really excited to pick this up. It's called Packing for Mars, and it's all about kind of the science. It's all about the science and problems and logistics and ways that various space agencies around the world deal with those problems and logistics. For traveling through space. Not specifically through Mars, like I know the title is Packing for Mars, but just space travel in general. So I'm really excited to check this one out. I picked it for wander because it made me think of, like, you know, humans traveling and wandering to a new place, and so wandering to space, that might be a bit of a stretch, but it's what I'm going with. The last pair of words were micro and macro, and I ended up going with macro. So I took this word as, you know, micro is tiny, macro is big, and so I am reading a book that covers a really big subject about big things, and that is this guy right here. It is the Illustrated Brief History of Time and the Universe in a Nutshell, so it actually has both in here. And it's by Stephen Hawking, and I got this for my birthday a couple years ago, and I actually haven't read all of it, or really read it through, kind of flipped through it a couple times, not really like actively reading it, but I really want to. I picked it for my macro because it is like something that's covering really big subjects, and from what I'm guessing, like a really wide amount of things about those big subjects, so I thought that it fit macro really well. So that's my TBR for November. I'm really curious if you are participating in Nonfiction November as well. If you are, link your TBR down below. I'd love to see it. I really enjoyed watching everybody's Nonfiction November TBRs because, as I said, I really like nonfiction myself. So I'm really liking that. And if you've read any of these 4 books that I've mentioned, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. The nice thing about nonfiction is it's kind of hard to spoil it, at least the books that I picked. Like, the Catherine of Aragon one kind of is more like story based, but I mean, I've watched and read enough about the wives of Henry VIII and Henry VIII themselves to kind of like know what happens to her, so I can't really be spoiled in that. So I'd be really interested if you have read any of them and you want to go ahead and pop your opinions down below. If you like this video, I'd super appreciate if you hit that like button, and if you like my content in general, be sure to hit subscribe so you can always see my videos. Good night, bookworms!